Mohimacharan, to the master. Sir, can a man return from the plane of samadhi to the plane of the ordinary world? Master, in a low voice, to Mohima. I shall tell you privately. You are the only one fit to hear it. Kaur Singh also asked me that question. You see, there is a vast difference between Jiva and Ishvara. Through worship and austerity, a Jiva can at the most attain samadhi. But he cannot come down from that state. On the other hand, an incarnation of God can come down from samadhi. A Jiva is like an officer of the king. He can go as far as the outer court of the 7-story palace. But the king's son has access to all the 7 floors. He can also go outside. Everybody says that no one can return from the plane of samadhi. In that case, how do you account for sages like Shankara and Ramanuja? They retained the ego of knowledge. Mohima, that is true indeed. Otherwise, how could they write books? Master, again, there are the instances of sages like Prahlad, Narad, and Hanuman. They too retained bhakti after attaining samadhi. Mohima, that is true, sir. Master, some people indulge in philosophical speculation and think much of themselves. Perhaps they have studied a little Vedanta. But a man cannot be egotistic if he has true knowledge. In other words, in samadhi, man becomes one with God and gets rid of his egotism. True knowledge is impossible without samadhi. In samadhi, man becomes one with God. Then he can have no egotism. Do you know what it is like? Just at noon, the sun is directly overhead. If you look around then, you do not see your shadow. Likewise, you will not find the shadow of ego after attaining knowledge, samadhi. But if you see in anyone a trace of I consciousness after the attainment of true knowledge, then know that it is either the ego of knowledge or the ego of devotion or the servant ego. It is not the ego of ignorance. Again, Jnana and Bhakti are twin paths. Whichever you follow, it is God that you will ultimately reach. The Jnani looks on God in one way, and the Bhakta looks on him in another way. The God of the Jnani is full of brilliance, and the God of the Bhakta full of sweetness. Bhavanath was seated near the master, listening to these words. Bhavanath to the master. Sir, I have a question to ask. I don't quite understand the Chondi. It is written there that the Divine Mother kills all beings. What does that mean? Master. This is all her Leela, her sportive pleasure. That question used to bother me too. Later I found out that all is Maya. Both creation and destruction are God's Maya. Girish conducted Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees to the roof where the meal was served. There was a bright moon in the sky. The devotees took their seats. The master occupied a seat in front of them. All were in a joyous mood. Sri Ramakrishna was beside himself with joy at the sight of Narendra. The beloved disciple sat in the front row. Every now and then, the master asked how he was getting along. He had hardly finished half his meal when he came to Narendra with some watermelon sharbat and curd from his own plate. Tenderly, he said to the disciple, "Please eat this." Then he went back to his own place.